Appreciate it. So right out of the gate, defensive line, let's talk about it. Again, we've looked at free agency, the draft pretty handily. We're going to continue to do that with mock drafts moving forward because the board is going to constantly shuffle around. Now we're coming out of All-Star week. The boards are going to change a lot. We're going to try to keep our board as stationary as possible while we add in some more important pieces down the stretch. It's going to shuffle, don't get me wrong. But in terms of where the consensus big board had these prospects, where the PFF big board had these prospects, we're going to leave that the same other than the players that weren't originally on their board. We just got to go off of any data that we've got. So with all that being said, let's now dip our toe into the defensive line free agent market. You see the screen grab here from our Patreon group. That's, Calais Campbell from the Arizona Cardinals. Every year his name gets brought up as a potential signing for the Green Bay Packers. It's like, on our show at least, like, hey, this would make a lot of sense. And we always get the pushback, he's too old, he's too old, he's too old. How many times we're going to say this before he's actually too old, right? Because, again, he's still one of those top players in the league. He's a dominant force in the middle. We just threw him on the screen grab. And the reason I did this, guys, is because Jonathan Gannon just came from the Cardinals. It's obvious he likes Calais Campbell. So maybe there's a little bit of a link there. So any Arizona Cardinals on these lists want to keep an eye on for sure. So let's dive into the list. This is according to Spot Track, okay? So over at Spot Track, we've got previous average annual value. And again, these are defensive linemen. Keep in mind, guys, that there may be some edge defenders in here as well. We'll try to sift through that information. I'm going to give you the previous average annual value ranking of the top defensive linemen that are set to hit free agency as an unrestricted free agent. And then we'll talk about their market value and how that changes a little bit. I've also got on a back screen PFF grades pulled up. I've tried to narrow it down to like the top 5 or top 10 teams that are mentioned here so we can compare and contrast their PFF grades as well. So right at the top of the list for the Atlanta Falcons, previously making $11.6 million average, David Onyemata. He's 33 years old. You're going to notice a lot of these guys are older. And again, to me, that's not a bad thing. You've got veteran players who are going to play discipline, play their gap scheme, right? And they also, many people just think, oh, because they're old, they're going to get hurt. Guys, we had the youngest roster in the league, and we were decimated with injuries, right? There's also something to be said for these guys who have played in the league for 5, 7, 10 years. They know how to play and stay healthy as well. They've learned that along the way. We've heard pros say that throughout their entire career, throughout the whole time I've watched the National Football League is, yeah, you got to kind of learn how to play with a certain gear in certain situations. Make sure you're saving that gear for the really, really important play, and also make sure you're playing under control so you don't continuously stay on the IR. So I think that's an important thing. DJ Reader from the Detroit Lions, $11 million previous average annual value. He's 31 years old. Daquan Jones, 34 years old. He played for Buffalo last year. So again, why is that important? Who's our new defensive passing game coordinator? Bobby Babbage. What was he? Defensive coordinator for the Buffalo Bills. So maybe someone like a Daquan Jones makes sense. Again, that was his previous average annual value. Spoiler alert, jump over to the market value, $1.7 million. Not a good look, right? That tells you that he's probably not played well as he as you would want to going into a free agent year. And again, at 34 years old, he may be hanging it up. All right. John Franklin Myers, defensive lineman. He's 29 years old from the Denver Broncos. And again, you guys do your research in case one of these are an edge defender. If I know their edge, I will call them out. But John Franklin Myers, 29 years old. He was with Denver. All right. His previous average annual value, $7.5 million. His market value, $7.8. Next, you got Larry Ogunajobi, I think I'm saying that right, 31 years old. He's from Buffalo. His previous AAV was 6.6. His market value is $5 million. Sebastian Joseph, defensive lineman from the Tennessee Titans, 6.5 previously, 6.8 now. DJ Wanum out of Carolina, only 28 years old, 6.2 million. Now they're saying 5.6 is his market value. Cam Jordan still playing football at 36 years old, going to be 37 this year. Played for New Orleans, 14-year vet, $6 million last year. They're saying 6.7 this year. So again, you got a guy that his value seems to be holding strong. I wouldn't be opposed to a Cam Jordan if he decides to come back and play this year. And it looks like everything that we see now, that is the case. Next is Calais Campbell. Before we do fishy things, been a member for 6 months here on YouTube. Appreciate you, Fishy. You are the man. Best Green Bay show on YouTube. Thank you so much for the kind words, buddy. We greatly appreciate that. Next on the list, Calais Campbell. Guys, he's almost 40 years old. He's 39 years old. 17-year vet, played for the Cardinals. Check this out. $5.5 million is what the Cardinals had him at, previous average annual value. Could you imagine having Calais Campbell playing the interior defensive line for you last year alongside Devonte Wyatt and Kobe Wooden too? Kobe Wooden, I thought, had a decent year. He led our interior defensive lineman run stops. I think he had like 33 or 34 run stops. It was a solid year, if I remember correctly. We have to go look at the data. But again, I know he had a much better year than I expected. I'll just put it that way. Okay. And he was our true nose. $5.5 million previous average annual value for Calais Campbell. 10.9 is what they're projecting his market value at. What's that tell you? He had a good year, right? And again, we'll talk about the PFF grades and everything here in a second. Sheldon Rankins, defensive lineman, going to be 32 years old, played for Houston, $5.2 million last year, 7.5 is the market value. Shelby Harris, defensive lineman for Cleveland, 34 years old, 10-year vet, $4.5 million last year, 2.9 this year. So now you're getting into those where you're kind of upside down in the market value as opposed to the previous average annual value, right? So again, that's a handful of names. Now, I'm going to kind of read some PFF grades off. First of all, PFF did an article saying that the best fit for the Packers in free agency, they did this for all 32 teams. They said David Onyemata from the Atlanta Falcons. And here's what they said. Before all-pro edge defender Micah Parsons went down with the torn ACL, the Packers boasted a top defensive line. The team struggled down the stretch, losing its last 4 games of the regular season before falling short in the wild card round of the playoffs against the Bears. The biggest concern with the Packers defense is its inability to stop the run, particularly the interior defenders. As a unit, Green Bay's defensive tackles ranked 31st in PFF run defense with a grade of 30.6. Veteran defensive tackle David Onyemata has defended the run at a high level during his career and is coming off the offseason in which he ranked 8th amongst 130 interior defenders. So he was 8 out of 130 in PFF run defense with a grade of 74.2. This is the type of under-the-radar move that makes sense for the Packers, team that won't be on the clock until 52 overall in the 2026 NFL Draft and won't be looking to spend big in free agency. So again, David Onyemata, his market value, $8.5 million. That's one to keep an eye on, okay? Now, in terms of the other guys, let's find DJ Reader on this. Well, first of all, I sorted by teams, guys. And Tennessee Titans made the cut here, obviously, because we got Sebastian Joseph, who's on this list. Guess who ranked 5th amongst all defensive tackles last year? Now, please hear me out. This is no way bragging. This isn't boasting. This isn't saying, hey, listen, we know more than anybody else. I've got our draft board from this year, and there's a guy by the name of Devonte Sweat, okay? We had him listed as our 3rd best defensive tackle. Now, you're going to hear this all draft season, all right? And this is why I'm bringing it up. Anytime you mention a big body nose tackle, they're going to say he's not a 3-tech. He's not a 3-tech. Anytime you mention a cornerback, they're going to say he's not big enough. He's not big enough, Brian Branch. Anytime you mention an offensive lineman that you like to go, the arms are too short, Brian Balaga. Again, I'm not saying those things aren't important, but the draft expert crowd that like to smack you over the mallet with, we understand you understand the measurables. We got it there, Hosscat. We got it, okay? You're an expert. You know exactly how long the arms need to be for Goody to draft them. You know exactly how much height and weight they need. We're going to include that stuff in our board. But these people that jump in the mentions constantly go, they'll never draft him. Okay, they said the same thing about Devonte Sweat. He's too big. He's out of shape. It ain't going to work. 83.4 PFF grade last year. Now, did he stay healthy? I don't know. I haven't dug too much into the numbers. I'm just simply saying that's a perfect example of a guy that people were saying, well, he's just a nose tackle. He's just a nose tackle. You know what his pass rush grade was? 74.1. Again, Devonte Sweat may never play another decent down of football the rest of his life, but we got to get out of that mindset of, well, this will never work. That'll never work. Just wanted to mention that. Now, he's obviously not on this list. So David Onyemata was the 8th ranked defender, interior defender, according to PFF. That's the one that PFF's linking up with us. 78.4 PFF grade, 74.2 run defense grade, 67.1 pass rush. Not bad for a big body defensive tackle like that. Played 633 snaps. Okay, somebody to keep an eye on there. Next on this list would be Daquan Jones. Daquan Jones of the Buffalo Bills. He finished ranked 23rd at his respective position. 72.2 was his PFF grade, 69 run defense grade, and a 65 pass rush grade, okay? So, actually, no, that was Calais Campbell there. I apologize. 72 for Daquan Jones, 63.5 run defense grade, 72 pass rush grade. So a little bit better pass rusher than a run defender there. John Franklin Myers. Let's see if we can find him on this list, because I know there's a lot of people that like John Franklin Myers. He's actually pretty low on the list, 61.9. If you're telling me you'd have to pay him $7.8 million to get a 61 grade, and again, PFF isn't everything. It's just a real quick snapshot of how these guys stack up against each other. Whether they're grading the tape right or wrong, you'd like to think they're grading them all the same, right? But when it comes to John Franklin Myers, I'm not as big on him as other people are, for sure. Then Ogajanobi, if that's how you say the name, trying to find him on the list, he looks like he must be pretty far down. Yeah, he's 109 with a 45.3. Don't want him. Hopefully Bobby Babbage doesn't sell us on him, right? So when you get down here to Calais Campbell graded out as the 22nd best defensive tackle with a 72.2, 69 run defense, 65 pass rush grade, 524 snaps there for him. So that's a solid pickup there. And we know a veteran like that knows how to play the game. Sheldon Rankins, 70.8 PFF grade. He's on this list as well. I'm seeing a Shelby Harris. Can I find a Shelby Harris on this list? I may not have included his team. Shelby Harris, 61. Nothing special there, right? Minimum, sure. But outside of that, no, don't want to touch that one for sure. I'm going to try to find Cam Jordan. Cam Jordan, where are you, sir? Not even on this list. He'd be on page 2 if I'm looking at this right. So probably want to steer clear of Cam Jordan. So to me, I think PFF is on it here. Onyemata seems to make the most sense. And I know he's 33 years old, but again, he played last year, he played 633 snaps. You bring him in, and let's say you can get David Onyemata for $8.5 million per. All right. You give him a 3-year deal with $8 million guaranteed. It's really a 1-year deal for $8 million. And then it's like a club option on the last 2, essentially. Right. And if he hits the wall, okay, it was worth a shot, move the heck on. Right. So again, that's something that I think we should really take into consideration. I do. I mean, just looking at the list, the names on this list, again, that was previous average annual value. Now let's go to market value. This is probably going to highlight the ones who carry the most value. Now, Jalen Phillips, obviously he's an edge rusher for Philly, so we'll just leave him off this list. We're talking interior defensive line at the moment. You've got Calais Campbell at $10.9 million. We just talked about him. David Onyemata, $8.5 million. Logan Hall is an interesting one from Tampa Bay, 25 years old. So if there's a guy on this list that's young that you go, hey, that might be a young one we could pick up in free agency and have him for 4 years. 25 years old, love the age, right? $2.3 million was the previous average annual value. It jumped to 7.9 for his market value. 7.9 ain't breaking the bank for a 25-year-old, but there's got to be a reason for that, right? There's got to be a reason that he's that cheap. He didn't crush it last year. He was the 40th ranked defensive lineman with 66 PFF grade, 66 run defense grade, 65 pass rush grade. Okay. So that's where he falls there. Logan Hall would not be a bad pickup at all, especially for $7.9 million with what defensive tackles are going for right now. If you were to go grab Logan Hall, I think that would be a solid pickup for the price. Here's the beautiful thing about Logan Hall. He's ascending. What do I mean by that? When he came in the league in 2022, 36 was his PFF grade. 2023, he goes from 36 to a 52. 24, he goes from a 52 to a 59. And then this year, he went from a 59 to a 66. You got a guy that's an ascending player, right? Former second-round pick, 33rd selection. So that's a borderline. Tampa probably had a first-round grade on him to nab him at 33, I would imagine. So, again, just one of those guys, run defense grade 66, pass rush grade 65. If you're looking for upside, Logan Hall might be the dude, right? Because, again, he's still young. Now, if you were to say, Clayton, pick 2 out and can we make it work with the cap? Absolutely, we can make it work with the cap. Are you kidding me? Like, there's plenty of space to be generated, to be created within this cap space. Now, do you want to spend a good chunk of it on just defensive line? Probably not. But if I were to go out and try to get 2 guys here, for me, it would be David Onyemata, get him to a 3-year deal that's really a 1-year deal, give him more guaranteed money than anyone else to shore up the deal. And if you can get him for 8.5 on average, his cap hit this year probably going to be around $6 million. Okay. That's how that's going to work. Now, if it's, $8, $9, $10 million fully guaranteed, or, that's guaranteed, and you decide to move on next year, you're going to carry a cap penalty, right? That's just the way it is. So David Onyemata, cap hit roughly $6-7 million. You can work that in easy. Are you kidding me? $6 million in today's cap. And then if you want to go Logan Hall and get him for 7.9, let's call it the same thing. You're spending $12 million total against the cap in 2026 for a couple of guys that could help shore up your interior defensive line in a year where you don't have a first-round pick. Does that make sense? So I don't know. That to me, that seems like a solid move. Now, the same thing can be said on offensive line. So let's say we went out and got two players there. I'm going to try to make a note here. Let's say you got two defensive linemen for a total cap hit of, let's just call it $12 million in 2025 or in 2026. Okay. So let's just make a mental note of that and remember that. Okay. Those are the two guys that pique my interest the most as it sits here right now. Calais Campbell, guys, keep in mind, would not mind it one bit. I'd be okay with that. But with David Onyemata and Logan Hall, that combination of those two, I feel like you're getting a little youth on your roster, and then you're getting this wily vet to a youth with potential upside and an ascending player, and then you're getting a guy who's a wily veteran that you could throw out there as well and help the defensive line. So to me, I would be okay if you took Calais Campbell and Logan Hall too. Hell, I would be okay if you took Calais Campbell and David Onyemata. The problem with that is if one of those two guys hit the wall, right, and whether they hit the wall or injuries finally do catch up with them, then you're going to find yourself in a situation where you could have had a younger Logan Hall who might potentially be ascending. So you're rolling the dice a little bit on Logan Hall. That's if this market value holds true. We know how this goes, guys. There's someone else that probably had a first-round grade on Logan Hall too. If you get 3 or 4 teams bidding on him, he may get $15, $20 million a year. You guys know how the league works. Bad teams overpay all the time. We just got to make sure we're not one of those bad teams overpaying, right? So that's how the defensive line free agent list looks. If you guys are watching this video back later, let me know in the comments. How do you feel about that plan at defensive line? Are there any other players in free agency that you would rather maybe group up together and go, hey, let's go get this? Maybe you just want to get one. Maybe you think we should get two. How do you feel about the interior defensive line? Let me know in the comments. Make sure you hit like, make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss out on future content like this.